Hi, guys, and welcome to Keep Hope Alive podcast. We have another great show for you today. I got Casey Kang Head here with us today, and she's a cancer coach and three-time survivor of acute lymphoblastic. I hope I said that right. Lymphoblastic, whatever
Yep,
it's
you
called.
did.
Okay. But we're gonna dive in, ask her more questions about her journey and everything she's been through. And reading your bio, you've been through a lot. So I can't wait to get started. But let me ask you a random question out of the blue. How many weddings have you actually been to in the past 10 years?
I've only been to three, and I actually think I've missed more because of being sick than I attended.
Oh, gotcha. During a ceremony, when people are walking in, like the guests are walking in, what is it that they have to sign over there?
Isn't it just called a guest book?
Yes, very good.
Okay.
So lifeonrecord.com is one of our biggest sponsors here for Keep Hope Alive. And what they do, they don't have it as a book, but a vintage rotary phone. So your guests can go up, pick it up, leave a message and say, congratulations, you two. We're so happy for you. Many years of happiness. And then you can have other people, hey, dude, finally got a ring on our finger. But I call it the gift of voices. And I love that because love to hear my friends and family if they have encouraging stuff to say. I want that taped. And so when your guests go up to this, they also have a QR code that they can scan and on their mobile devices. So they can use their own mobile phone too and leave messages either before or after the wedding. Now, I'm basing this basically on wedding, but you can use it for any kind of function out there to get that voice, out there. After everything is collected, they will burn those messages either on a 12-inch vinyl record or they have a keepsake speaker that they can put it on. And plans they're only $99. You get that toll-free number, not the phone, the toll-free number for 1 year, which is just good. So if anybody else wanted to call or they say, oh, I forgot to leave you a message. You go, well, here's that number. You can still do it, and they will get it burned onto that box for you as well. But definitely, to find out more information about Life on Record, go to www.lifeonrecord.com. All right. So, Casey, who are you?
I am a thriver. And I say that because, surviving means literally just by definition, not dying. And I,
Yeah.
I feel like I am beyond just not dying.
Good, good. I am so glad to hear that. So, yeah, I mean, as I was saying, you're a three-time survivor of acute lymphoblastic. And I don't even, honestly, I'm going to be honest here. I think I know what it is. Is it lymph node stuff? No,
No,
I'm wrong.
it's a blood cancer.
Like, what are the symptoms that you went through? What was the journey of trying to figure this out and what it is?
Um, so it's acute, so it happened very quickly. And there are a lot of symptoms that I was attributing to work and stress and other things that were happening in my life that I didn't really think it was a serious health concern. Although in hindsight, I want to smack myself in the face and be like, duh.
Yeah.
Um, I was getting night sweats, like soaking through shirts. I was pale as a ghost. I started to develop some really severe lower back pain. I started to have ocular issues where it would almost be like a light, like when you're driving at night and that light shines in your light and your eye, like all the
Yeah.
time though, and it just would never go away.
Oh, wow.
And then the last few symptoms I started to develop were every time I would just like touch a body part to something, I would develop a deep, dark purple, black and blue bruise, and it looked like somebody was beating the poop out of me. Um,
Whoa.
yeah, and
That
then
is,
and then petechiae, which is like a cluster of little red dots all over my body. So there were a lot of things that I was clearly ignoring. Although it happened
Yeah.
very quickly, the ramp up was like about a month that I was just like, oh, it's stress, it's stress. And then that week is when all of those things really started to exacerbate themselves.
Yeah. So I know a lot of people will be like, oh, this has to be something. But, I did that recently with a rash on my neck, and I waited like a month because I already
Oh,
had like the cortisone stuff to put on it, but it wasn't healing. And so I went to the hospital and they're like, oh, you got ringworm. And
oh,
no, I did not have ringworm at all. So he had me putting on the cream. I did, as followed by that doctor, but I just went to the dermatologist and said, this has been here. Like, what is it? And he goes,
yeah.
it is not no worm. And he goes, this is an autoimmune disease.
No
And
way.
he goes, you got to find out what's attacking in your body. It's like you're the cabin, here's the woods right behind, and there's a big fire and it's coming right at you. And I'm like, crap. I've started this process of getting referrals, getting to the
Yeah.
doctors, and I think right like when I was about to get to the right doctor for a referral, they're like, oh, because of the new year in their system, it's still saying the old doctors. So you need a new card again just to get the
Oh,
referral and have them send it. And I'm at my wit's end because, yep, here's my my card
oh my gosh.
with the doctor's name. I might run over there and be like, I can't wait for these processes, to go
Right.
through, but it's just crazy.
Yeah. It's exhausting. Our medical system is very frustrating. I've had a lot of experience with that frustration. And something's wrong and you're trying to get solutions. And the system kind of, it's like pushing a boulder up a hill. You're like, just help me help you.
Yes, yes. I mean, I feel like some of my doctors just want to be like, oh, you have this symptom, here's this drug, take it.
Yep.
And I advocated for myself the last time. I go, really? I was like, can you just tell me what the vitamin is that is equivalent to that? And he was like, magnesium. I was like,
Yeah.
wow, you told me what it is, I'll do intake of magnesium before I put anything else because I feel like a guinea pig or, a gerbil or something where they're testing me a lab rat. So I don't want to be that person who's going to be constantly poked and pronged on. But, when they found your cancer, I mean, they started treatments how fast for you?
Um, Extremely fast. So I was diagnosed on a Friday night, which isn't exactly the best timing to be diagnosed with cancer, considering like then you're into the weekend.
Yeah.
And a lot of the doctors are obviously the rotation doctors are not there and the normal doctors are not there. So you're like dealing with whoever's the overnight who got the last like the short straw to deal
Yes.
with that weekend. So but it happened very rapidly. So I was admitted to the hospital immediately, and they started testing for everything because they're still like, we need to confirm that this is what it is. So they took 3 bone marrow biopsy samples, and honestly, before they even had the results back, they were already starting treatment. So I started like that Monday morning. They told uh myself and my husband at the time, like, we're 99.9% sure. Like there's no doubt in our minds this is what it is. And sure enough, they were right. Usually
Yeah.
they wait and confirm it, but I was so sick at that point that they were like, we can't wait to treat you.
Wow. Yeah, definitely. So that's scary. Does the testing the biopsy actually hurt when they do bone test? I don't know. I have to ask for myself and others.
No,
Maybe
I
they
mean,
don't know
that's it.
either.
It's legitimate question. So it's basically, so they take your lower back, your sacrum, the
Yeah.
largest bone in your body, um, and they literally drill holes into it and then take out a piece of your bone. And it can be extremely painful. Most people
Mhm.
would say that. However, the first time that it happened, I was so high on Dilaudid that I was like, you can do anything you want. Actually looked at my husband as soon as they gave it to me, because they gave it intravenously, so it hits you very quickly. And I looked at him, I go, I know why people do drugs.
Yeah, yeah. Oh my gosh. I think I've been through so many different surgeries in my life, but every time they knock me out, I go, oh, this stuff is not gonna knock me out. And it's like, well, I'm two, with the last person they counted, I think it was 1, 2, 3. I was like, oh, I am asleep. And why am I waking up now? But I think one of them, I told my doctor, I was like, I'm glad you're my doctor. You're a good looking dude. You need photographs.
Oh my God, it's so funny that you said that, because right after I had my stroke, I was in the ICU, and clearly not like, I was still on a lot of medications, like coming out of a coma. And my doctor, my oncologist came in, and she goes, and she was like trying to make sure I was okay. And I said to her, and I don't remember, somebody had to tell me this back. I was like, you and your team are so attractive.
Attractive.
Yeah. And I was like, you guys are all so good looking and so smart. And like, I just like for 5 minutes talked about how attractive they were to her.
That's so funny. I mean, I would have said I had to go through ketamine treatments. Oh my gosh, that is a nightmare. But you say some crazy like things on ketamine too. I was like, no, why did I do it? Why did I get approved for all this? And it was my back issues. They were trying to take the pain away, but still, there's even with sleeping medication, I'm on Ambien, and that I say crazy things. My son tells me, he's like, you were doing this and this. And he goes, I'll tell you my last Ambien adventure. He was like, you had orange juice, and it's like you were doing a podcast just sitting on your bed, but you were cheers like to everybody, and the orange juice was flying up, and you fell asleep in the orange juice puddle. And I was like,
Oh,
oh, is that why my pajamas are all wet? My bed is stained.
oh,
But I was asleep. I didn't know that was happening. And I would never sleep in wet clothes. But obviously, hey, when you're on Ambien, anything happens. So,
right.
but yeah, definitely. As I have another question, I hope I don't forget it. So, you know, you talked about in your bio that you are a stroke survivor also. And like, I want to tell you, I felt like I have had a couple strokes, TIAs.
Mm.
A neurologist tells me, well, there's nothing showing in your MRI that you had it. But my lip, it feels like one side down. My eye is droopy. I can see it in pictures. And, I told them when I do my podcast, I can see it too. And they were like, oh, you're your own worst critic. And I'm thinking like, no, this is not me. This is actually seeing it. And I had a friend I haven't seen in a long time, and he pointed it out without me saying
Huh.
anything. Your eye, your lip. I go, I know, but I couldn't feel from my neck, my shoulder, left side, all the way down. It was just gone. It felt like somebody beat me up in my face when I thought I had the worst one. And my speech can, well, with that, out of all those times, it was slurred and everything. So I don't know. What were your symptoms like as your strokes?
So I was getting at the time intrathecal chemo, which is where they take fluid out of your spine, and then
Yep.
they put in chemo directly to your brain. And I had a CF leak. Basically, they didn't balance the fluid out, and that can happen. It basically you feel like you have vertigo. You can't lift your head up. So I was experiencing that, which led me to going to the ER because I wasn't eating for 3 days. Like I drank hardly any water. My husband at the time was like, that's not normal behavior for you. Like you're on the couch, you're doing things that are not normal for you. So he was the one who really like was like, we should go. So we went to the hospital and they check in anybody who's going through treatment
Yeah.
automatically, basically. So I was there and we're in the room. I didn't feel anything. I personally did not feel anything different. My husband looks at me, he goes, smile. And I was like, I am like yelling at him because I'm angry, I'm frustrated, I'm in the hospital.
Yeah.
I'm not a happy camper, right?
Yeah.
I feel
I
like
get it.
poop. Yeah. And he goes, no, really, like smile at me. I go, I am like yelling at him basically at this point. He calmly walks out and calmly walks back in and goes, okay. And then the room gets flooded with nurses. And that's the last thing I remember. The next thing I remember is waking up and they're putting electrodes on my head. And I'm like, what happened? He was like, you had a stroke. And I was like, what? And they're like telling me all these instructions of like, if you feel something, press this button, blah, blah, blah. So then, like, I don't know how much longer later, it felt very short. I started shaking violently, and that I felt. And I just remember saying to my husband, whether it was audible or not in my head, I was like, press the button.
Yeah.
Because they're trying to map your brain waves and to see how
Yeah.
much damage is done. That's when I had a seizure and they put me in a medically induced coma. So
Coma?
yeah, they put me in a medically induced coma for 3 days because they didn't know, number one, what the stroke was doing, or they were trying to prevent more seizures from happening as well. So they were trying to stabilize me basically.
Have you ever had a seizure before?
Before that moment, no,
No.
never.
They're
And
scary. I have epilepsy. So, that's what scared me was it felt different than a seizure.
yeah,
That what happened to me. And I was just
oh
like,
yeah.
okay. And I remember I told my mom and she's like, oh, just take your Ambien and go to sleep. I
Like that's not a solution
drove
for
my
this.
I drove myself to
Well,
hospital. Yeah.
I will say, like, what if they do a PET scan, like it should show up. It should show
Mhm.
up if you've had even a small, very TIA. It should show up on a brain scan. So, like, they have scans before, like, if they have scans of your normal
Yeah.
brain, and then they scan it now, they should, in theory, be able to see the differences. Because
Yeah.
I that was part of like my follow up was like, well, how do I know if I have another one? And like all these things. What they were like, we'll know if we
Yeah.
scan your brain again, we'll see the different parts and things and the differences,
Oh
and that'll give us
goodness.
that
Yeah.
information.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Strokes are no fun. My uncle and
No.
my aunt had a stroke. I think my uncle, his personality changed with it. He went to
Mm.
Mr. and he's still smart. He's a very smart guy, but he went to jokes, like
Yeah.
a lot of jokes. I'm like, is my uncle now? Like, I used to be when I was younger nervous to talk to him because he was so smart. But
Mm.
now it's like, hey, how are you? He's like, did you hear this? It's like, okay, this is night and day. So, but yeah, definitely. So, and you started, you start teaching not to live in fear. So, how are you teaching this? I know you have a book also. Are you teaching it through the book or actually doing courses?
So the book is more like how to get back on your feet. Like these are the questions that I asked myself, like, about what do I want for my life to look and feel like going forward? Because it's so drastically different than what I thought was going to happen with my life.
Hmm.
And so the book doesn't really address the fear and the anxiety as much. But I do a lot of Zoom courses and things like that with group coaching and to teach and educate and give people the tools to do that because it
Yeah.
is like the number one fear and anxiety are the number one thing that everyone experiences afterward.
Oh, yes, definitely. Because
Mhm.
you don't, and same for seizures. I don't know
Yeah,
if it's going to happen again.
I don't either.
Oh my gosh. At least I get a signal to the brain. It's called Aurora, and it lets me know before it happens, at least
Oh,
25 to 30
wow.
minutes at least. So I'm blessed, but I'll tell myself, okay, if I'm at work, I have what is it called, fight or flight, kind of thing.
Mhm.
Run, hide, it's coming right now. You don't want people around you, but that's the worst thing. And a person who has epilepsy can do. Like at Macy's, I ran to the bathroom, but I fell and hit the
Mm.
toilet going down too. But
Oh
I
boy.
I was outside of the stall watching me up against the thing, and I said, Don't die." And I'm like, "I'm right here." Like,
Wow.
but I could see the whole thing, and it's not the first time with the epilepsy that I've been in and out of my body. It's the weirdest experience, but you know, it's like I was a smart butt there too. Yeah. Um, for working as a bridal consultant, you get all this training, and I don't know, Martha Stewart, don't be mad, but I didn't like her bedding. I like hotels collection, but they put me on a Martha Stewart bed before the ambulance got there. And I remember when I got to the hospital, I called and I said, "Can I stay clocked in?" And they're like, "No." I go, "Why'd you put me on Martha Stewart?"
Right? Like all the beds and all the bedding, you chose that one.
Yeah, it's like, you know what my favorites are. This is my life. I help couples, I don't want to be found if I were to go on a Martha Stewart.
Right.
But
It's funny where our brains go though, like in times
yeah.
of crises. Like I remember when they told me I was diagnosed, weird things. I was like, I- the next day after we were admitted into the hospital, I woke up, I was like, we need to call my, I'm not kidding. We need to call the woman who does my eyebrows because I'm not going to make my appointment today. I was more concerned about that than like the fact that I was like severely like about to die. And like I was like, make sure you call her and tell her I'm not making it. Like that I
Yeah.
can't. And like
Yeah.
so concerned about it. And it makes zero sense, like in theory, because like I was about to lose all of my hair. What did it matter?
Oh my gosh, that's
Oh.
funny. I know it is interesting how the brain works after these things that happen. So, I feel bad because people don't understand that a lot of, I call it like the magic eraser. When I have a seizure, memories get erased too.
Mhm. Yeah.
And I remember where I do karaoke, this lady is like, "It's nice to see you again." Like, "Huh?" Because I didn't know who she was. I was like, "Oh, okay." She goes, "We met like a couple weeks ago. You're talking to us." I was like, and I said, "I had a seizure and then I have a concussion." I go, "So I'm so sorry. My memory got erased. I don't mean that in a bad way. I hope you can understand that." But it's embarrassing
Mhm.
when you make that connection with somebody new. You want to be that bubbly person and still talk to them, but I don't even know what I talked to them about. So it was
Yeah.
weird.
Yeah. I
Or
mean,
sometimes coming back from all the medications from a hospital and, you know, seeing the news. I don't watch the news, but I was like, I remember going, "Okay, I could have probably died there, but why am I watching the news? This is hell." I remember thinking that exactly thing. What world do we live in?
oh
I was like,
God.
"Take me away."
Right? You're like
So,
just confused and everything.
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
so it makes it really, really hard. So, but yeah, your book that you write, tell us, about that, what the name is, where we can get it, and what led you to write a book. I want to know that.
Yeah, that's a great question, actually. So the book is called Finding Your Way Back to Heart Center Cancer Treatment Ended. Now What? And I chose that title specifically because I remember over and over and over and over and over again to an an exhausting level, Googling
Yeah.
cancer treatment ended. Now what? Like, how do I get back to living life when it's so drastically different after almost 5 years of not dying, right?
Yeah.
And I was really struggling with that piece of the puzzle. And yeah, I was in therapy, I was doing all these things, and it still wasn't enough. And I was like, I still felt lost, I felt stuck, I felt like I lived for what? Like kind of angry
Yeah.
too, like all these things. So I just, as soon as I figured everything out and I was like, oh, my ducks are in a row, I'm like, people need to know that there's that, like those steps forward. And it literally just like was like word vomit on a page. And I just kept typing and typing and typing and typing. And it was like there were moments my fingers couldn't keep up. And it's not literary gold, but it's like it came from my heart. And I was like, if it helps one person help themselves navigate this life after cancer, I'm
Yeah.
like, then it was not for nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. So I like that you're doing podcasts too about this too, because getting the word out there by book. I mean, for me, if I always ask the authors, like, do you have this in Audible? Because I like to listen to my AirPods and just lay
Right.
down and listen to books. But, I've gotten some books recently and I've been holding them and reading them. I'm like so proud of
Yeah,
myself.
that's
But I
awesome.
definitely go both ways there. So,
Yeah.
but
I mean,
yes.
I love audiobooks too. Unfortunately, this is not an audiobook. It's
Okay.
you can find it on Amazon, but it's more of like I would say a workbook. Like I ask you the questions that I found helpful for me, and there's like
Okay.
like space for you to write. Like because I was like, oh, like this is how I came to these conclusions and things. And
Yes.
yeah, and like so I just wanted it to be more interactive. I wanted it to be like how I would have wanted to figure out what I was going through. And there might not be enough space to write, but it gives you enough time to be like, oh, I should be like, these are the questions I need to stop and ask myself.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, and writing that, I love the workbooks and journaling because
Mhm.
it really opens up. And
Yeah.
I wish they made a book out there for any kind of symptoms. And I was watching this professor on a YouTube for hidden diseases and things
Mm,
that doctors can't see. But he made a comment like, a doctor will respect you more if it's all written out, like you've been journaling it.
really
So, yeah,
interesting.
I just recently lost my balance. I hit my head on my
Yeah.
wall, got a concussion. But then for like 2 or 3 days, I went through crying spells. And it was like
Mm,
maybe 10 a day. And I wasn't sad. I was like, what am I crying over? So I went in there and they were like, well, you got PBA. And I'm like, well, what's that?
mm,
And they're like, it's either crying or laughing. And I was like,
mm.
okay. But they got me on this medication and it was helping. And it was time for a refill. And I found out that the insurance will not cover it. And the Gold RX card will not cover it. And they needed $300. I go, mm-mm,
That's
nope.
insane.
So, I mean, I had like 2 or 3 pills left. I was like, no, I'm just going cold turkey today. And I told my boyfriend, I go, when we met, like I was covered by this medicine. But if I cry, they're happy tears. Nothing's going to come up this. I'm going to learn it. There was a happiness coach on my podcast too named Jeff Tharp,
Hmm.
and he's like, you think of happy thoughts. And I try to do that all the time now. And at night before I'm dozing off, like I'll put on some reels and watch them. And I'm just like, what's his name? Tim's Adventures or Tiny Tim Adventures. I don't know. That makes me laugh. So I'll watch some of those and I'm like, "It's so funny, you know. But I thank God for TikTok, right? It's like
Right.
watching America's Funniest Videos, but like a quicker version of
A
it.
quicker version of
It's
it.
not,
Yeah.
yeah. So, but those things, bringing happiness and having that positivity thought will always help. So now, Also, I noticed you're a yoga instructor, Reiki, and you talk about happiness there too, nutritionist and the cancer. The Reiki, they wanted to do a treatment on me, and I was gonna go for it to see what it was like.
Mhm.
And I think something stopped me back a couple years ago, but I'm gonna go ask again because I really feel like it can help with my conditions because, I'm learning like if my whole leg goes out, if I touch it, it's like, oh, I feel touch a little bit, it's like, but that's the medicine for me. It's just
Right.
compression touch. So
Yeah.
it's the weirdest thing. That's all I need.
Yeah. And Reiki is very interesting because it's like you're being manipulated, but no one's touching you. It's the wild experience to be able to do that for someone and to get it. Yeah. And here's the thing, like you have to be open to receiving it. Like
Yeah.
if you're blocked from receiving, like you're not going to reap the benefits of what it can do. And I think like it's just so fascinates me because I do it on myself. I'll do it to like friends that I know, and you can actually do it across Zoom, which I know people are like, how? But it's possible. Like, where it's just you have to be connected in a way, and there's ways to do that, but it's wild.
That's cool. I mean, I've tried meditation also, and I mean, yeah, I go to church and I pray there, but when I did the meditation with a big group of people,
Mhm.
that was amazing.
Oh, it's powerful. It's so powerful.
I was like up in the air. It felt like the universe and all pretty colors in the sky, but I was looking down at Earth, at
Yeah.
America, and I decided to pray for all the teachers.
Mm.
That was my thing. But then it made like gridlock, pinpointing all the cities together, beautiful glowing lines. And I remember my prayer, and I was just like, but when you come out of that meditation, it's like, but I want to go back.
Yeah.
It's like I
Yeah.
got to do this again. So I mean, I got taken the steps to take care of myself and forward. That's amazing. Yeah. So,
Good for you.
but yoga as a yoga instructor, how has that helped you? I would like to learn about that.
Well, I mean, you've probably experienced this. Like, there's so much medical touching and violation. I almost want to call it. Like, you're constantly being poked and prodded, tested, scanned, touched. You know, and yes, we volunteer for that, but it's not necessarily touches that we want, right?
Yeah.
Being poked with needles is not a good, not a really good touch, quote unquote, right?
No. Yeah.
So I noticed for myself, like I would disassociate a lot, especially like the more time went on, the more I was just like, do whatever you want. Like, who says that, right? Like,
Yeah.
I'm just a body, basically, like a dummy, like just like, move me around, do whatever you need. Like, so yoga really helped me connect back to my body and really start to, because I have a lot of things that I can't do anymore because of the stroke and cancer, that it's basically that it helped me relearn how to use this vessel that they gave me, right? Or that I
That is
have
so
as a
cool. Yeah.
byproduct. Yeah. So it's really like you learn how to use it and how it functions so very differently. But it's like I say every day it's a learning process because some days it can do the things that I want, and other days it's like, nope, why would you try that?
That's funny. Like I notice my park that I walk when it's warmer, they'll sometimes have yoga lessons out there.
Mm,
And I think the only thing that holds me back is my leg is in a lot of pain. And every
mm.
time I see yoga moves, I'm like, I can't even sleep at night. I have to have my leg cracked in an ankle just to lay
It
there. And
actually
it
it helps with a lot of pain, actually. Like you'd be
does,
surprised. Like, yeah, you'd be surprised. Like the if the instructor is good enough, they'll give you modifications to be able to do a lot of the poses.
okay.
But it actually does provide some relief. Like I have chronic hip pain that after I do some yoga, I'm like, oh, I feel and and I go for days without doing it, I notice the difference. And I'm like, oh, I
Yeah.
need to go back to my mat.
Yeah, so I'm gonna try it. If I can back in the day do Denise Austin's workout at home, I can try a yoga class at home.
Yes, you can. Yes, you
So
absolutely
yeah,
can.
I just in nutrition, I was talking to somebody else um today, and we were just talking about dietitian nutrition, and they were talking about I went to a pain seminar for nerve damage and stuff, but they have something to regrow. I think they said the blood cells, that have to have, it's like they said it was neutrons, protons, or whatever. Because when you have small fiber or large fiber neuropathy, it's just this without the lines, but basically they can put the lines back on and stop
Mm.
the pain. And I decided, like, to be open-minded, and I had a lot of questions for them, but I don't think it's the real cure right now. I feel like there's something more. Like for me, I got to dig and dig and find it and go from there. So,
Mhm.
and then, yeah, long story short. So,
The ongoing,
um,
ongoing story.
yes. Now you have a dog. Your
I do.
dog's name is the same as my mom's dog, Lily. I love it.
Yeah.
Now, I always say people with any health, issues, dogs and cats, they're sensitive to that. Has your dog picked up on any of that?
So I got her a couple years ago. So she wasn't with me through my journey, although I wish I would have had her because even if I get upset now, she'll come right to me and try and like make it better, like lick my face or my hand or whatever, and I'm like, get out of here. Like sometimes I'm like, get out of here, like, because it's too
Yes.
much. I'm like, I'm not upset. I'm okay. Like, but she
Mm,
doesn't know that I'm okay. And so she's very sensitive to like how I am feeling. Like she's just
good.
very intuitive, and I think they're just amazing creatures.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are. My dog, I had a seizure right in front of my dog. I fell to the ground there.
Oh,
I keep falling. But
oh,
the only thing that got out of me was her tongue licking my eyes.
oh.
She's not a trained dog. She don't know anything. And I'm like, Abby, whoa, you're not a service dog, but you got me out of my seizure. Thank you. But now she will sleep very close to me. And I'm like,
Mm.
oh, so, I ever have a boyfriend, I'm gonna be like, and we moved in together or something. Hey, you know what? The dogs have to be on the bed too.
Right? You got to make room. We need a bigger bed.
Like there is no way I could sleep without them, but they drive me crazy because they'll wake me up 2 minutes before my alarm is set to go off.
No.
And I'm like, I never get to hear the alarm go off. I'm getting licks all over me, like, hey, get up, mom. You got to take Liam to school and everything. And
Oh
so,
my God.
but yeah, so I mean, 3 times of going through the first cancer stuff. And I mean, you're a fighter, you're a warrior. Your strength is amazing to get through all this. What advice would you give somebody right now who is maybe going through the same as you?
Never, ever, 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 ever lose hope. When on paper I should be dead, I'm not. Um, you never know what's around the corner that's going to come out and save your life. And that hope is what keeps so many alive for so much longer. And
Hmm.
to double down on it, because, like, truly, like, if you look at the statistics in the paper, like, I don't know why I'm here. But if I can give that little bit of hope for somebody else, maybe that's it. I don't know. But I never lost hope that I wasn't going to live, even though planned a funeral, planned all these other things.
Hmm.
I just never let that die deep down inside of me.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So that's good. That is good advice. Don't lose hope.
Mm.
So Yeah. It's hard to get through these different challenges. So I know depression probably sets in for people. The anxiety sets in, like, what is going to happen to me? And I don't think it is any better if you're at a hospital and they come in, do you have a living will? No, do I need one?
No,
And I
that
was,
sure does not help.
what was it it was Christmas Day or Christmas Eve this year? Got a phone call and it says, we want to plan your funeral. I go, What's my timestamp?" Like, do you know this? And I don't. Why? It's a Christmas holiday. It's a holiday. Don't call me and talk about death. And that happened this year. And I was just like, dude, yeah, maybe on Halloween or something. Call back.
Yeah, I mean, that's the timing could not have been worse for them to call you, that's for sure.
It's like, who works then and talks about that stuff?
Uh,
I
ugh.
even think I said, do you like your job?
Oh, yeah, like, ugh, I mean, that's brutal. Like, I get it's a
Yeah.
necessity, but geez, like, come on.
Yeah, yeah. And I know with my doctor they want me to keep a journal every day with each symptom. And I was like, well, are you going to read every page? What do you want me to do with this journal? So I mean, put little bookmarkers or tape posting notes. Hey, read this page and this page and this page
Right?
and learn about me.
Earmark, yeah.
Yeah, so it's just important to have, when you're going through this, make sure you're happy with the doctors and you don't feel
Hmm.
gaslighted. You're getting
Yep.
the right information, which is very important. Start planning your book while you're going in the process of this, because you will end up writing one and just get started right away. Go, hey, I
Yep.
got this. You know, I interviewed an author and I think her book is like, you don't have a book yet. And I was like, you're right. I don't have a book, but I'm stubborn. Like, I want the ghostwriter. I want somebody to do all this legwork. And I just spend a day. They can interview me. I'll tell them everything I've been through, and boom, let's get this book going. But
Right?
I think it's in everybody to sit down and share their story. So the podcast is my book right now. And
Oh,
let
I love
people
it.
come in. Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, I just love that you've turned a big thing into a happy thing. And I mean, I hate to ask this. Can this ever come back? Have they ever said anything?
Yeah, so they basically when I kept after my third round, they basically like wait and see was what they said. I still go back twice a year to my oncology team, which is more than most. Most go back once a year. But they did not ever say that it would never come back. And so there's always that possibility or another cancer. I'm at extremely high risk for melanoma, and some other types of cancers because of all the things that I had endured for treatment. So they are very well aware. And yeah, I mean, I don't let that stop me. I don't live
Yeah.
in fear or have anxiety about it. I'm like, if anything, I'm like, I'm prepared. I'm ready. Like,
Yeah,
I
bring it
don't
on.
want it to come
I got
back,
my
but
shield up. You can't get through me because
right,
today this is going to be a good day. This is
right.
what happens. I'm going to go, and ride through the waves. It's like being in the
Yeah,
ocean, surfing or something, but you come back and you're going to fight again against that wave and try to get through it,
yeah,
break
a
that
hundred
wall
percent.
cycle. So, but yeah, I mean, I, so Emma, okay, going back to that, what if people wanted to contact you and talk to you? What are your socials? Do you have a website,
Yeah.
emails?
Yes. So I have social, all my stuff is the same, so it makes it really easy. So I have a website. I'm on Facebook and Instagram, and it's at the Happier Hustle. And please
Okay.
say hello and reach out. It's me you're going to talk to every each and every time. And I love connecting with others. That's the whole point of being on social media, right?
Yes, exactly. So, yeah, definitely reach out. I'll put all your stuff in the information that I set out,
Yeah.
with your video podcast and everything. Put you on our Facebook page. And if you guys have any questions for Casey or myself, you can call 833-780-HOPE, which is 4673, I believe. So, but leave us a message. I promise I will send them right to Casey and go, hey, you got A, B, C, D to answer. Here's your homework. So,
I would love that. I would love that.
yeah,
Happy to answer any and all
yes.
questions.
I haven't started live streaming yet. I keep wanting to learn more and more about it, but I don't do it because I'd be like constantly like this trying to read the whole time and I would be so thrown off. So I like doing these interviews and telling people call in or write us an email, but definitely. So yeah, I hope I didn't miss anything with the interview. We covered everything, correct?
Oh yeah, we definitely did. So thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you for
So,
letting me share.
oh my gosh, no problem. It was a joy to have you. And I want to thank our other sponsors that keep hope alive. Really quick, I'm going to take a drink. I keep getting dry mouth. I think it's a new medicine they put me on or something, but I hate this. And I know I should be drinking water, and it's Coke right now. Mm, okay. So, as I mentioned, lifeonrecord.com was our first one. That's your interactive guest book. So check them out if you would like to have that cool vintage rotary phone. Our next one is snap bands. Let me see if I can pull this up. Yes, mine says hope on it. And it's a really cool concept that they do. It has a little metal things on underneath. They have the whole science behind it. And I'm going to go over that in a full podcast with the owner of snap bands. But so it helps reduce anxiety, OCD, PTSD, helps with cognitive, thinking behavior also. So they have it in all different little metal plates, sayings like blessings, hope, faith, and it's just a long list of it. And it's just wonderful. I've had mine on. I opened it yesterday, put it on, and I'm happy so far. So, but yeah, their website is good, and I'm going to spell it out too because it's a little bit different. It's Snapbands, so www.s as in Sam, NAPPBANDZ.com. So check them out. We also have Ogden Ventures LLC, Marquise Ogden. He is a retired NFL football player for 3 different teams. And now, as he is retired, he's a keynote speaker and best-selling author and a podcast host. So you can find him at www.marquise Ogden. So it's MARQUES OGDEN.com. So you can check out his podcast and everything. He's a wonderful speaker. Then we have bridalshowsinc.com. They host about maybe 5 trade shows out of the year. Their next one and it's a bridal trade show based in Dallas, Fort Worth area. So even if you're in a different state, come on out. Our shows are wonderful. So, but you can go meet your vendors. They showcase at work, and you guys can set up appointments with them and see a beautiful fashion show. So it's a lot of fun at them. Her next one is the end of January at the Dallas Market Hall. So I'll have that information posted as well. Our next one is Bryce Harney at www.brycemagic.com. He is a magician and a mind mentalist reader. He has been on TV. He's going across the United States doing all these wonderful events for big corporate offices, churches, and he's hireable for parties and stuff like that. So check out his information. I typed him up on YouTube and saw some of his videos, and I'm like, wow, and then I met him in person and I'm like, he's the nicest guy you'll ever meet. So
That's awesome.
Our next one is milesandSmilesEvents.com. Miss Deborah Rose. And Deborah, her background is investigation, and she does handwriting analysis and lipstick readings for her events, and she's 100% accurate, which I love that about her. So no matter what the event, she can make it fun and make it happen for you. Next is richmondpunch.net. He graduated from the Juilliards and he's a violinist. He's been doing it for probably over 30 years now, but he's performed in front of 1 million people before, and he's been on 2 Lifetime shows, I guess, as the background violinist. And I gotta find out what those shows were, but I think that is amazing. So if you are looking for a violinist, check them out. Our last one is TK Hair Salon. So guys, girls, children, no pets though. If you need a haircut, styled, color, updo for a special event, they do it all. So you can check them out at tkhairsalon.com. Now, wherever you guys find your podcast, you will be able to find Keep Hope Alive podcast. And we are looking for people who want to hear different, topics and stuff, things that are happening around the world. On my website, there is a voicemail. You can leave a 30-second message for me, and I will get right on it, investigating it, and get a story out to you guys on the podcast. So, and Valentine's being right around the corner, I want to hear those love stories. So, call in and let us know, or email Nadine at keephopealivepodcast.com. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I'm so happy to met you and talk to you and everything. So, and then, I'm going to be bringing you back next year, I bet.
Well, thank you
So,
so much for having me. I appreciate it. I do. I'm
oh,
grateful.
thank you. Until next time, guys, love and light. Mwah. We'll see you next time.